Welcome back to Chit Chat, and today we're going to be talking about finance, basically finance in Thailand, what the economy is, etc., and where we are with that. Yeah, we're trying to broaden things a little bit rather than just being a tourist restaurant site, so people can be aware of what to expect when they come here, and for the people who are living here. We have Craig McAvenny with us, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Please share and obviously give us some comments and opinions. Yeah. So, Craig.
Hi, good morning.
So, what's happening in the world with regards to Thailand, and what can we expect? We're all suffering from the inflation, less so than the UK, where we both come from. But within Thailand, what's the situation with that, and what's your advice?
Yeah, well, I think as you said, we are facing somewhat of a global situation at the moment, where inflation is at its highest levels for many years, in some cases, 30, 40 years in the US. And this is having a negative effect on the stock markets over there. Anyone that's invested would have noticed that, their shares are probably down at the moment. And in fact, in the last 12 months, we've seen the S&P 500, which is kind of a barometer for global markets, down 11%. That said, when you look at Thailand, we do have inflation here. At the moment, I believe it was 7.6% was the last report. Not as high as the US and not as high as Europe, but still, a fairly sizable rate of inflation. And yet in the last 12 months, we've seen the Thai stock markets up, albeit just over 1%. But clearly, when you compare that to the US, in a lot better shape. But the Thai baht, although having lost against the US dollar in recent times, is actually stronger against the euro and the pound over the last 12 months. For those of you that read my monthly blogs, in my last one, I talked specifically about the US dollar, about how strong it was across all currencies. And that's been reflected in its performance against the Thai baht as well. In the last 12 months, we've seen it up 10%. So those of you with US dollars in your pocket are doing okay. You're getting 10% more for your money in Thailand than you were 12 months ago. Those with pounds, 7% less. Those with euros, 5% less. So therefore, the old story about diversification. And if you're retired here, having streams of revenue in different currencies is clearly illustrated by that.
Could you just explain to people, because it does get confusing sometimes. You say the strength of, let's say, from the baht, because that's what we spend, and that's what people spend when they come here. When you say the strength to the, let's say, pound for our sake, yeah, what does that mean? And the weakness, yeah.
Yeah, well, basically, I mean, with a currency like the Thai baht, at this moment in time, £1 buys you roughly 42 baht. And if you go back 12 months, that same £1 would have bought you 46 baht. So therefore, when you're comparing the pound versus the baht, you would say, okay, the pound has weakened. And of course, in order for one currency to weaken, it means the other has to strengthen. So therefore, from the Thai baht's point of view, as £1 is now equivalent to only 42 baht rather than what it was 46 12 months ago, that in the last 12 months has strengthened as a currency. So any Thais that were holidaying in Europe and going to England, they would be getting more pounds for their Thai baht now than they were 12 months ago. And the reverse is true of those with pounds coming into Thailand.
Okay. Just to explain, because it does get a bit confusing, as you say, it's a seesaw, yeah. So depending which way you're looking at it.
Yeah. I mean, exchange rates, and I think people obviously always want the best exchange rate, and it's something that people ask me all the time, and you often see it on these forums. Where do I get the best exchange rate? Where's this and that? And yes, of course, everybody wants a fair rate. And is it better to use Wise or XE to move my money into Thailand? Is it better to send, directly? Is it better to send, like, opening up a pound or a dollar or an Australian dollar account here in Thailand and then transfer? And whilst it's important to make sure that you're getting a fair rate, i.e., whatever the rate is, you're not getting sort of more than sort of maybe 1% off of that as a margin, ideally less, ideally about 0.5%. I think the fact that currencies fluctuate so regularly, if you're moving money in on a regular basis, it's not best to get too caught up with that, because over time, because of the fluctuation in the currency, you're always going to be getting a different amount of baht, for your euro, for your dollar, for your pound. So I think the key thing is to set up a system whereby, depending on, when you need money, to pay it in periodically, and that way over time, you're going to sometimes get a bit more for your pound or your dollar, and other times you'll get a bit less.
Yeah, because I mean, as far as exchanging money concerned, when you're here, yeah, super rich and D money and organizations like that give you better rates than the banks, yeah. But also,
Correct, yeah.
if you're a business as well, when you do transfers through the banks, yeah, you got about a 1,500 baht charge on average for the transfer, yeah. Whereas if you use something like an exchange, D money can go from Thailand out, yeah, and others can come into Thailand, yeah. You get a maybe a 500 baht charge or no charge, depending on what the promotion is at the time. So I was in one of the malls, and there was a super rich location. This is just a week ago, and it was packed. There was queues outside, people changing money. Yeah. So
well, that's
the message is getting out, especially if they're opening branches where you had to go to near Thai Airways to get it, to use super rich many years ago. Now they're opening up branches in malls.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it around quite a bit. And I mean, of course, the world we live in, where I effectively get paid, sometimes overseas, sometimes in Thailand, but I'm bringing in, money by bank transfer. Of course, I've very well, for many years, not since I've been on holiday, have I had to actually, physically exchange cash at one of these exchanges. But yeah, I certainly read that super rich seems to be the best value when it comes to exchanging cash. I think another thing is, it can get quite complicated with the way that these apps and all the different exchange houses make money, because after all, they've all got to make money. But how they do it differs, as you mentioned before. Some of them will give you the live rate, like Wise does, and then it will charge you a fee for making that transfer. Others will hide the fee, whereby what they're doing is the actual rate you're getting is not as good as the live rate. So it's what's called a margin, and that'll be that'll be factored into to the exchange rate you get. So I think you've got to be aware of that. The other thing, I think, certainly for tourists, I don't know how it is with tourists from Europe and the US, but for British tourists, using their overseas ATMs, that can work out a very expensive way to to fund your holiday, because the ATMs in Thailand, again, I've not had to use a foreign card for a while, but I think the last time was about 250 baht. Does that sound right?
Per transaction,
Which is which is a fixed fee. And then you might also find that your British bank is also charging you a fee. And to add to that, you'll also might find that the exchange rate you're given, the margin that they're taking, is higher than it should be. I mean, I've seen cases, if you're only taking out 5 or 10,000 baht at a time, from an ATM in the UK, your money can end up costing you 4 or 5%, which you shouldn't be paying. Of course, if you are sort of stuck with that option and it's the only option you've got because you don't have access to a local account, or you haven't been able to open one, or have somebody that you can use to give you local currency, then take out 30,000 at a time. That way, the fixed fee is less, relatively less cost. And I think a few of the banks do it now. Previously, it used to be Krung Sri, I think the yellow bank, that was one that you could always get 30,000 out of, and others were 20. I think nowadays perhaps a few of the other banks do offer 30, but I think 30 is still the maximum in one transaction. Okay, so in Thailand just now, let's say you've got money here. What should you be doing with it? Because the interest rates have actually increased here due to the Bank of Thailand. Yeah. Any advice on local money, where you should keep your local money? There's only it's only 0.75% though, the Thai base rate, which again is still behind behind the US and other developed economies. I think again, as banks and Federal Reserve committees and these sort of things, as inflation increases, of course, the way to combat that is to increase the interest rate. So, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, I think even if you're fixing money for 12 months at the moment, you're still lucky to get sort of 1.5%. So when it comes to Thailand itself, I think the stock market here is in reasonable shape. I think there are good fund managers out there which the banks can help you with, where you can invest in mutual funds which effectively buy shares in the Thai stock market. But other than that, it's quite tricky to find income producing products in Thai baht.
Well, I mean, I was speaking to a stockbroker here, a Thai stockbroker, and he was explaining that it's not easy for a foreigner to go and buy stocks and shares because there's a whole you can do it, but there's a whole lot of paperwork to go associated with it. Yeah, so maybe that's different with funds as opposed to purchasing individual shares. So
you can always buy the fund on an offshore platform. I mean, as long as it's what we call open architecture. I mean, if you hold an account with a broker in wherever, whether it's the UK or somewhere like Jersey or the Isle of Man, then you can often, these open architecture allow you to buy both managed funds and indeed, if you want to buy Thai stocks. Although of course that's quite specialist, right? So you'd need to sort of be on the ball with that. But I think overall, I think in Thailand, it's difficult to know, isn't it? I mean, from my limited understanding in many ways of the property market here, you seem to see that property in Bangkok, and I'm talking about condominiums here, seems to get sort of better capital growth, but you get less yield. Whereas somewhere like Pattaya, if you can be bothered to do Airbnb or booking.com or rentals, then of course you can often get a better income on your property, but with less capital growth.
Yeah, and then also there's laws around that as well because the hotels are upset that people are doing it. Yeah, so I think I have to rent it out for about a month. Yeah, a month. And another thing, what I've done recently.
What you mean the short-term rental?
Yeah. Another thing I've done recently is I'm with Siam Commercial Bank in one of my accounts, and what I did is I moved, because it's cash flow for me, what my spending is and what I need to have available for emergencies, the visa rules and things like that. Is I moved money to, like, Siam Commercial Bank has a thing called an EZ account, and you get up to 1.5% on that, and they pay you monthly, for the interest. But what you leave your let's say your regular money in there, because that's what you would spend, or if there's an accident you would need to deal with, and then for ATM you have in another account. So that's what I've done, because you can't run an ATM off the EZ account. You just transfer what you need, which is free, into the other account. And then so people should look at the banks, because I hadn't done this for a long time, so I was on 0.5%, interest, where now I'm at 1.5%. But that fluctuates, obviously. They're not committing to that. It's not a fixed income.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's pretty much in line with what a lot of British banks and that do, right? I mean, you've usually got like a current account, and even though It's called instant access, you've got an instant access account, and these accounts will run side by side with each other. As you say, one will pay interest and one won't. But I mean, obviously, interest is important. It's better getting something than nothing. That said, of course, we're still in an environment where if the best you can get is 1.5% on your money, and the cost of living is rising by 7%,
still losing,
you're 6% beneath the trend, up to 6% against it. So, it's a difficult time economically, globally, and that has had a knock-on effect on markets around the world, with what's happening in the US. As the saying goes, when the US sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. Thailand isn't going to be immune from that, despite seeing its, as I mentioned earlier, the stock market rising somewhat and the baht increasing against quite a few currencies, and price of land and things like that seems to always increase, doesn't it, in countries like Thailand? But I mean, unless you've got that sort of level of commitment, and as you know, there's also the rules around foreigners owning land which make it difficult. Although, again, I might be going a bit off topic here, and it might be for another day, but these new long-term resident visas, my understanding is that there are land, you are allowed to buy land, I think, with these new visas.
Yes, I think we're going to be doing a show on that a little bit later, because there's still some things which are unclear. Like everything in his seems to goes into law, and then it has to go through a bill, through government.
Mhm.
Even with this cannabis situation, that seems to be fluctuating a little bit, so
That's another
not
story, yeah.
that we're getting stoned or anything, but
Mm.
so they're bringing in this really, you have to have a certain amount of money, you have to be an expert in something, you must be investing, you have to have so much money coming in each year, something like $80,000 per year. So basically, what they're looking is for the rich to come in, where they can purchase a house, So basically, talk about a rye or something, but until it's in black and white and clear, I don't want to go into the detail of it. One thing we discussed before off camera was where with the situation of the stock exchange fluctuations and things like that. Everyone's looking for something which is stable, And we've discussed things about the alternative investments, where you can be looking at around about 10-12%, depending on it, I've got involved in that, so this is why I'm talking about it, and it's gone very well, but people are always a little bit scared about this alternative investments, What do you suggest them looking at when they're looking at these alternative investments? Should they be looking at the P&L through company house, or what they should be looking at?
That should be available. I mean, the type of investments you're talking about, I think, are generally sort of bonds or lending that happens. And there are a handful of businesses that I help raise money for, that, as you say, will pay a double-digit return. I think the key thing is understanding, how and why this business is willing to pay you sort of 10 or 12% per annum on your money, when the argument might be, or the thought process might be, well, why isn't this company going to a bank and borrowing at 3% or 4%? Why are they going to pay you 10 to 12%? There's lots of reasons for that, and each individual opportunity needs looking at in isolation to understand it. And quite frankly, out of every 20 businesses that come along looking to raise monies in this way, probably one, sort of passes my due diligence when it comes to, a product that I'm willing to promote. So, these alternative investments are good as long as the underlying company that you're investing in is good, be it by loan or by private equity, because what you're doing is you're investing in something which is uncorrelated to the stock market. So most people would sit down, they would have a share portfolio of some sort, depending on their time horizon in their investment life. Some of it might be weighted more towards bonds, or if they've got a bit longer of a time horizon, more towards equities. But on top of that as well, some of these opportunities that, pay the high interest are really good, do offer non-correlation, and do have sound business models underneath them. That said, there's also a lot of rubbish out there. And certainly within Thailand, I think we've all seen over the years, some of the property developments and whatever that kind of guarantee the sort of 8% or whatever it might be, haven't always gone to fruition. Yes, admittedly, perhaps COVID has something to do with that, but at the same time, I've not found anything locally in Thailand yet that I would, be comfortable enough suggesting that clients and prospects invest in. Although, as I say, there's a couple of opportunities with UK companies, UK businesses that I know, where you can get a double-digit return, taking on some risk, of course, but a risk which is managed.
Right. Okay, listen, that's great. Listen, thanks very much for this, Craig. I just want to do something a little bit different, because everyone's looking at their purse every day, spending that a little bit more. So we'll be doing this every month, just to give you an update of what's happening, giving little bits of advice. If there's any particular advice or questions you've got, send them through, put them through the comments, or just send us an email. or Messenger through Facebook, and then we'll see if we can deal with that. Yeah.
Crypto, no doubt. No doubt we'll have some crypto inquiries. I mean, that's always a hot topic, as I say, not one for today, but perhaps one we'll talk about soon, because I mean, it's interesting you use the word alternative assets, which is absolutely correct in some of the loan financing that I do for these businesses. But you know, crypto is also considered an alternative, albeit its recent performance might not.
It's becoming a swear word, yeah, in some people's minds, yeah, but which is unfounded in a way, but also it's not explained correctly. It's a bit of it's becoming a feeling of a grey area, and I know I'm going to get a whole lot of comments on that saying you don't know what you're talking about, and you're absolutely correct. I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to crypto. So anyway, we'll speak to you later. We will get the next finance report next month. Okay, thanks very much. Bye-bye.